I'm Dennis Loosier, Dr. Duck.
Billy Campbell, the fowl hunter, and we're here to talk to you about public land duck hunting. I think we take for granted, you and I obviously doing this together for 30-ish years, figuring things out over that time, areas we like to be in, areas that we like to look for, things we look for.
Right.
Kind of comes natural, right? A lot of guys getting started, and a lot of these younger guys that find it exciting and they get passionate about being outside and wanting to do public land duck hunting. If you drill it back down to that level, it's our first time out. We had some rough goes first time out.
It's always tough, and you know the thing that we had back in our day, we didn't have, I guess the social media platform, the YouTube channels and stuff like that, where you can just go and Google.
You can see Johnny killing them over there.
Yeah.
We're gonna start out over there.
Yeah, and it made things. It was tough, and there's
we didn't
a lot
even
of,
have Google.
That's what I mean. You didn't have a search engine to on a YouTube channel.
We
or
didn't have the
Google.
interweb.
Nothing. So it was.
We didn't have a cell phone.
Nothing.
Every time you got lost, I had to look around with a flashlight and a whistle.
You definitely had to know your way in and know your way out. But all of the electronics and the social media platforms, and there's a lot of stuff out there, a lot of content that a young man today can learn, far as I know. And you know, the main thing too that we teach is, you know, we're all one big family as well on public ground. That's the main thing is how we treat each other. And so we talk a lot about that. And so to me, on public ground, and sometimes it's crowded in certain areas because anytime you got a lot of ducks in certain areas, that's going to attract a lot of hunters. And so back in the day, you know, we wasn't treated very well. And so the thing that me and you, we've started a long time ago is, you know, enjoy the journey and trying to change that atmosphere to where it's just not about one guy killing a lot of ducks. It's about a group of guys killing ducks, because that's normally what you have is in on public grounds. You got a group of guys working together trying to have a successful hunts, but also those guys, those young men or period or young ladies have to work together in some type of form, because a lot of times you do have people that have to set up close to you, and that's just the nature of the beast when you hunt certain areas with a lot of ducks, because you know nobody's going to step aside and just watch one group of guys kill ducks every morning. So
you mentioned with social media, like you said, we didn't have the Google Earth. We didn't have cell phones. We didn't have internet. That's real. That's real. I remember when a GPS was a new thing for us. We were poor rednecks, really. I think the first boat we ever really had was your wife's granddaddy's little V-bottom with that. You know, he let you
little 9-horse on it,
and just get out there and figure it out and find it. The social media you mentioned being obviously a really good tool, but it can also be deceiving, right?
Right.
You talk about a group of guys killing birds. He can see this group of guys killing birds. He can see this group of guys. I'd like to drill it down even further. You talk about the way people are treated, us
Right.
working together and enjoying the journey. You ever think back to high school days? Now, you know what? You and Amy just got married, right? And this weekend, she wants to go hang out with her friends. And you're thinking, you know, her friends are fine, but I'd rather hang out with my friends. Why we got to hang out with your friends, right?
Right.
I want to hang out with my buddies. We all get along. We think the same, right? I'll go hang out with your friends. I love everybody. It's fine, but I can't wait to be back with my friends. They've developed all these little cliques. And what the good people of the outdoors, and I ain't talking about just waterfowl hunting, I'm talking about all the outdoors, should understand, this should be the root of everything, should understand that clique, your friends, that is the group of outdoorsmen.
Right.
The population of this planet, this country, this crazy country, is growing so very fast. The amount of hunters is dwindling. Whether you agree with that or not, the fact is the number of people that get out and do that, the percentage especially, compared to the overall numbers, is not as big a number today as it was. So when you talk about your friends, you talk about that group of guys that you're all passionate kind of about. Look, you got guys, you got friends you hang out with that you might not take in public. You got friends you hang out with, you thinking, he's not the best guy, but boy, he's a great time to be around. But you got that group of friends. They're all different, but you all have something in common that allows you to hang out, to enjoy that time out. And when it comes to the outdoors, I really think that's what it all boils down to. You know, we say all the time, and I've said, the picture that I drew, that my dad, I lost my dad at an early age, but that vision that I had of him when he left, he was a God-fearing man that wanted his family outside. Handshakes, a promise, and these are a lot of things that you're about, and that's kind of the glue that holds us together. And it really is the glue that should, I believe all outdoorsmen are an example of that. If you're talking about, hey, where can I find a God-fearing guy that's going to keep his word? I mean, wouldn't that be the first place you go?
It'd be the first place you go.
So they shouldn't be guys getting envious over that stack on social media, being mad about one person doing something one way when somebody else is doing different, or you prefer to do it your way. What's it matter?
As long as it's within the laws or the regulations of where you're hunting, it's all fair game. That's one thing I don't do. I don't criticize somebody else's style and how they choose to do it. You got guys who use mojos, and of course we use mojos at times in certain areas where we go. When we go up north, South Dakota, North Dakota, wherever, we'll use them up there. When we get down to the south, we tend not to use them. But if a young guy or any person decides to use mojos, I don't criticize that, or any type of motion decoys. Whatever helps them to have success.
We're all on the same team.
We're all on the same team.
However you gonna get it done.
Right. So, you got a lot of young guys out there, and they're all trying to have that successful hunt. And normally, my philosophy is I think opening day is probably one of the best days that anybody can relate to when it's overcrowded. And I think that, the difference between, the private and the public thing here is that you got that one day that's the element of surprise. And I think that's another reason why a lot of these young guys get out is because, you take the private land hunter, he can recreate it by letting his hole rest. You don't have that advantage on public ground. That first hunt is the element of surprise. And if you get the hole that you scouted and you got everything lined up and you got that spot that morning, it's going to be a good morning, because you got, first of all, they're not knowing you're there. They're going to come right in with a confidence. There's not much to it. You're just getting ready to shoot. Mm-hmm. And then after that, it's a whole new game. It's a whole new strategy for the rest of the season, because that hole's not going to get to rest anymore. You're going to have somebody in it at all times, every day. So that's the thing,
So you're saying that's the difference in public and private. That's the primary difference.
I think a lot of that, of course, excuse me, the excitement of opening day to begin with, everybody's waited all year on it, right? Mm. And you waited all summer long. It's been hot, of course, and where we're from and anywhere in the South, it's hot. And hot. And you get that first cold front, and hunt season's right around the corner. That's going to build excitement. But on top of that, I think everybody knows that first morning is just that element of surprise of being there when the duck's knowing that for sure that you're not there, that it hasn't been shot at, it hasn't been messed with, and it gives you that first opportunity. So, and where a private land guy can go hunt that same morning, but I can let that hole rest for a couple of weeks. Even though you got educated birds, he's letting it rest. Those educated birds are probably coming in later that morning. But there again, they're bringing in new birds with them in a couple of weeks. And those birds are not educated to the hunting pressure. We're on public ground. After the first day, it's hunting pressure every day. Mm-hmm. So there's no rest. Does that make sense? Yeah. So the element surprise on opening day plus the excitement of opening day, it creates sometimes a crowded area. And so the thing that we always talk about is enjoy the journey. And, and there's, fortunately, we have many days of the season, and maybe it doesn't work out for you, but, duck hunting is just like any other sport. You're going to win games, you're going to lose games. And, you might lose that opening morning, but you got the rest of the season. Hopefully you can win a good hole somewhere else. But you got to learn to shake hands. And, I'm a firm believer, if you lose the hole and you're second place, and it's happened to us, you got to understand, it's like losing a baseball game, basketball game, whatever. You got to be able to shake hands, turn around, and go find you another spot. So, in that scouting world, you got to have an A, B, or C plan just for that reason when you hunt public ground. There's no reason to be mad or upset or think somebody might have cheated or even if they did cheat, there's no reason to get upset and start fighting. You just got to move on down the road, create another opportunity, and be peaceful about it. So I think that's one of the big landmarks in waterfowls. It is competitive, and it does create that atmosphere. Sometimes you get two competitive guys on two different teams, because waterfowl, you're usually hunting with 3 or 4 guys, and that is considered, to me, I think that's why waterfowl is so popular, is because it is kind of like a team sport. And you get two competitive teams out there, and one loses. It's hard to swallow sometimes, but you got to be just like anything else. You got to be able to walk across the field when you lose on a Friday night or a weekend baseball game and shake hands and move on and just get ready for the next day. But fortunately, in duck hunting, you can go recreate it. It might not be the hunt you was looking for, but you can make the best time of it, because at the end of the day, all you got, and we've said it numerous times, is a cold, wet duck. So that makes sense?
It does. You're hitting a lot of different topics. I think.
But I think, to me, that topic there creates the number one, I guess you would say, the conflict in waterfowl on public ground is the location of waterfowl. You can have there's number one, public ground is small, and sometimes. And what makes it smaller is that you do have ducks that work certain areas most of the time. You could take a ranch or WMA or whatever you want to have, and it could be 50,000 acres. It could be as big as you want, but they might be only working about 4 or 5 holes on that whole property, really. You know what I mean? They haven't spread out yet. They're used to going to this certain area. And so you create a lot of competition when you got a lot of ducks in the area and they're using, or if the water's low, just say if the water's low, it creates a small hunting areas, and you have a lot of guys there chasing those birds, because the numbers of the birds in that area is just, it's overpopulated maybe. And when you have that, you got a lot of guys in there competing. So that right there has the potential to create a lot of conflict. And so, the strategy sometimes in scouting or anything is, sometimes it's not finding the birds, it's winning the hole. So, and we've gone through that a lot over the years. We know those birds there, but so does 20 other guys. When I say 20 other guys, that's 20 other groups. So it does create some conflict when you have guys that don't understand, hey, you just got beat today.
You're lining up, you're sitting at a boat ramp, you're all night, and you're high on this opening day of duck season field. You got all the fields, and you're excited, and you know where you want to be. And you can't dock your boat out till 1, let's say, and then you can't move past go point until 2, and then you can't go in the woods until 4, and you find out somebody else is also trying to get to the same spot.
Well, normally
if you talk about it, you do.
Yeah.
But if you're not talking about it and you're not acting like you're on the same team as everyone else, you ain't talked about it, you might not be finding that out till right there at 4 a.m.
Right. And regardless, if you find out at the beginning
1 or 5.
1 or 5, it's just that the biggest conflict, and it's through the season, is the competition of holes. And I think that, to me, I think if you're to relate to what you're talking about, if you're not killing ducks and somebody else is, it's just when you got to dig down deeper and put a little bit more time in. Because I always tell people all the time, if you're not having success and you see somebody else is having success, that's mainly because you're not doing enough homework.
Right.
And so
we'll finish on your hole running, the first conflict.
But the hole run is just plain and simple. It's, you got a number of guys, and said it before, said it again, you got a number of guys that's trying to compete for the same spot. You get second, third, or fourth, whatever it is. If you don't end up with number 1,
So you didn't get the hole.
You didn't get the hole, and then if you're refusing to leave, is wrong. Now, if the guy wins the hole and he says, "Hey, we got room for 4 or 5 more," that's great. But if he says, "No, we're full," then you have to push yourself on down the line, and that's why you got to have the
explain those two scenarios.
B or C. There's no scenario. There's one hole. You got 5 guys going for it. One's going to win.
What should you do in that situation?
If you win,
you've not won the hole.
You go down the line.
Okay.
You go
so
to a B.
You just go. You go to plan B.
Shake hands, just like you do after a game. Whatever game sport you're used to playing, you know when you lose, the first thing you lost that day, you go get better. And that's why I always tell people: always have a B plan, always have a C plan, always have a D plan. Because you don't know if you got B. B might be taking time you get there, and and if you're smart, you always on your B plan you should have a runner going to a B or C plan as well.
Should be running multiple holes.
You should be if you're in a group.
Let's say you won that hole that day. You said your options are to invite them to hunt.
If
I
you
got room. What does that mean if I got room?
Well, it's just simple. You look at a guy and you say, "Hey, look, I know we won it, but we got 5 with us. This hole's big enough to hunt 10. We got room for 5 more." And if that group can fit, then you hunt together and work it out.
So you don't want to. You want to make sure if you're inviting these guys to hunt with you that day that everyone's going to have an enjoyable, successful, a good opportunity.
Right. You don't want to
overcrowd it and put too many people in an area. You do great homework. You know this area can only support 6 hunters today. You can't put 25 guys in that.
Right.
So that's a situation where you might tell them, "Look, I wish I had room. But I just don't think they're the duck numbers. We ain't got enough room in here to hide this many guys. Good luck to you guys." And
that's up to the team that won too.
Right.
You know what I mean? To me, if you do your homework, when I do that, I figure out how many guys I got, how many guys I can hide. Where a lot of things are going on. Not trying to get into that other part yet, but if the guy that wins the hole feels like, "Hey, we got barely room enough to hunt our people," and so you got to move on.
Yeah.
And if he's willing to say, "Hey, listen, we can make this work," and if y'all can figure out a plan, which is great, and I think that's what everybody. If you win the hole, that should be your first obligation. Okay, how many does the second place guy have? And if we can make this work, make it work, because tomorrow, the shoe might be on the other foot. You may lose.
That's right.
You know what I mean? And you got to remember, you want to be treated with that same respect. So that's the main thing you have to realize on public ground is, you're not going to win it every day, because I can promise you, the team that got beat, and the thing that we do is, if we get beat, we're going back to the drawing board. We're getting ready for the next day. We're not leaving with our lips hung down. Hey, we got beat today, but we're planning on winning tomorrow. And like I said, on public ground, most of the time is winning the hole. It's not really finding the ducks. And so that team that got beat, they're a little heartbroken, and they're going to have motivation probably to come in there and win it the next day, especially if you don't allow them to hunt it. So just remember, you treat people like you want to be treated, and so we always leave that door open, and we always try to fit people in, because that next day, that guy that I just let hunt with me might win that hole that next day, and then the shoes turned, and hopefully he has room for me. So that's the main thing. It's all about how we treat each other on public ground, and it's like Realtree here. They always say it's a brotherhood, and we are a brotherhood out there. We're all one big family, even though we are broke up into smaller groups. And I think you was trying to make that point earlier. And that's the thing that we have to realize to really make this sport grow, and because it is shrinking. The numbers it's there. If you do your homework on it, you can see that waterfowl's shrinking. Also, we're losing a lot of guys at the age of 34, 35. We got a lot of guys that come in at 18 years old, stay around to 24, 25 years old, 34, 35, and then they fall off. And the reason why is because they have families, they get married, there's other priorities going along. And then, of course, just having access to public ground, period, is getting really hard for an out-of-state guy to go visit another state.
What can you do as a new young man that wants to get into this? How can you find success?
If you're a young guy or lady trying to get into duck hunting, the thing you want to try to do is surround yourself with somebody who's done it and has a good idea of the ins and the outs of public ground hunting. But also there's an etiquette to it as well. As you know, if this guy's taking you out and you're asking him all kinds of questions, he's doing all this teaching. He's teaching you how to set up decoys. He's telling you things to look for. He's giving you tips on scouting. He's giving you tips on holes. It's just to make sure you stay in contact with him all the time or her. You know, the last thing you want is to be, and what I'm getting to is you don't want to be sitting up in this person's hole that's taking you under their wing and shooting ducks. What I always done in the past, if it did come to that situation, is I always made a phone call to the guy. Hey, are you hunting? Are you out of town? Is there any way you can go check this out? Not ask, you know, kind of asking for permission, but it's a respect thing. Just test the waters out, see how they felt. Because the last thing you want to do is go shoot the hole up today, and they show up tomorrow expecting, you know, to have a good hunt, and you shot it up the day before or whatever, or they show up the same day you are because you didn't make the phone call. So to me, to learn and be on a fast track of learning is surround yourself and with people who know a little bit about duck hunting or a lot about duck hunting. So and that way it does create better opportunities for you for sure.
And look, if you're not new to duck hunting, and unfortunately maybe you're in the same situation we were, we didn't have someone to show us that.
Right.
You're not new into it. You've been there. Be that person that the new guy into duck hunting can come to and get help.
Right.
And look, don't wait to see if they're the new young guy that's coming in that's going to use that level of respect that you're talking about. Go on and share that with them, right? Share the philosophy, the same team concept that we're talking about here today, right? Share that with that new duck hunter, because that's the roots of the whole deal.
It is, and you know, I've had guys always reach out and says, "Hey, you're only making things harder on yourself," and I disagree with that philosophy. I agree with the philosophy. If we take the guy to teach that guy to be a better duck hunter, that means he's probably going to be a better neighbor in the woods. And you know, I think one of the number one complaints is that we had bad neighbors. We would have killed more ducks if we had good neighbors. Well, I think it's our opportunity to teach those kids or anybody how to be a good neighbor. And so that's the basis of to me, it makes things easier for me to go hunting when I know I got a good group of guys over here that's 7,500 yards away from me, because I know those guys know what they're doing. They know what we're doing, and it creates a better hunting atmosphere for everyone. And so those are a lot of things that, you know, that you can learn for sure working with somebody who's done it for a while. And like Billy said, be that guy that's giving back, because I disagree with the philosophy. It's making things harder on me. I want to make it easier on other people by giving them the information so they'll be a better hunter, so I can have a better time when I'm out there.
Man, it's a lot to cover.
It's a whole lot to cover.
And we're going to be covering a lot of that today. But for this video, we talk about that philosophy, that mindset, the same team concept. You said it best. Treat each other with respect. We're called to treat people a certain way, and that shouldn't change in the duck hole. We're all on the same team, all of us in the outdoors. We should act like it. And I'd love to hear your thoughts. Comment on that below, and continue to stay plugged in, because we're going to be talking about it. We're going to be talking about all of it.
We're just scratching the surface right now.